You're listening to The Play Pouch. Welcome back. I'm joined with Tequila once again, and in this lovely episode, we're going to be talking about Bethesda Game Studios.
Yes, we are, and boy, they've done a lot of games, more than we even realised.
More than we realised.
Yeah,
Yes, we sat down with the list and we're like, oh, for fuck's sake. So we thought that we'd start from a certain point. We're going to start from 2002, which was the release of Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind. We're going to sort of run through from there, just purely because we haven't played any of the games.
and let's be honest, Pete.
Uh,
The majority of the games they made were either hockey games, basketball games, or for some reason a shitload of Terminator games that nobody really heard of,
yeah, don't forget Star Trek
and
game as
some
well.
Star
There's
Trek
about
games.
four
Yeah,
Star Trek games.
and we looked at the list. It's like we could go through all these, as Pete said, but it's kind of like it would take a really long time, and we have no insight because it's just like they made that, did they? Okay, good for them.
Yeah,
But yeah, so there we are. We started from a place where I think most people listening have probably at least heard of some of these. We hope.
yeah. So yeah, as Tequila says, they made a whole bunch of random mixture of games. The first one was Gridiron in 1986, but then they went on to do stuff like Terminator, as you said, and
Hockey,
you know,
Wayne Gretzky
bowling,
hockey.
yeah, drag racing, Echelon. So yeah, in 2002 they released Morrowind. So this is quite possibly the greatest RPG title of all time, still, because really it's not been matched since. I mean, like they've tried, but you can talk about graphical improvements and all that kind of thing, which is fair enough. But in terms of mechanics and storyline, Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, which came out May 2002, and then on the Xbox in June of the same year, this was just an absolutely divine game. The map was huge, storyline was engaging, lots of varying towns, um, lots of side quests, and just it drags you in. Just gets you involved with the whole world, and the opening is one of my favorite openings of all time as well with a game. What else can I say about it? If you're if you can look past aged graphics, then and you like your RPGs, play some Morrowind, man. There's there's a
What
ton
did you
of mods for it, so that make it look slightly.
What did you think the graphics were like comparatively when you first played it in 2002, which it must have been?
I mean, like going back to it, looking at it now, it's kind of laughable and funny. But like back then, it was like the best thing ever. It was like the cutting edge of graphics, and the combat was clunky and stuff. But again, it was just stuff that you looked beyond. You never really sort of thought about graphics back then. You know, it was never really a thing like it is now. Graphics, it's just like, like everyone's trying to push graphics to the limit with like graphics cards and stuff, but back then that wasn't really an issue. It was more along the lines of like mechanics and game.
And was it an early Xbox game then? How long do you
Yeah,
think the Xbox would have been out by this time? 2002.
probably not long, to be honest. Maybe a year or two. I don't know when the Xbox came out, but yeah, just an absolutely brilliant title. 10 out of 10. Now then,
Okay.
Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion 2006, take it away.
Yeah, so this was definitely my first Elder Scrolls game, my first Bethesda game. And I was used at that point, I was still very much in my JRPG phase. That was still what I class as a JRPG. So this was probably one of, if not the first kind of, as I call them, Western RPGs.
Yeah,
Just because they're just different. They just have different tropes.
yeah.
With obviously the first person view and stuff like that. And no random back. I mean, all the mechanics that I've discussed about JRPGs that generally I like. Yeah, this is completely different. So even though they are both RPGs, completely different type. And I really like the open world stuff, and I really like the idea of having to go from like the Oblivion gates would just open. You'd be wandering around,
Mm.
and then boom, and an Oblivion gate would just open, and you'd have to go through there and start fighting all the Daedra and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that part. And there was a quest that I will always remember to this day where you have to go into a painting. Does this ring any bells for you?
Uh, I
No,
want to say it does, but it,
but it doesn't. Anyway, yeah, and you have to fight a troll basically, and it's inside a painting and stuff like that. So I was really impressed with the quests
yeah,
because the quests were much more realistic than, like I say. But at that point, most of my RPGs I'd played were the Final Fantasy series and everything by this point.
mm,
So I wasn't used to side quests kind of being this way. It was much more. I was it was used to the kind of fetch quests. So to have these more kind of in-depth side quests that were much more important parts of the game, I really enjoyed. And the leveling system was all different. It was based upon, you know, the thing that you did more of leveled up. I mean, that would make sense, right?
yeah,
So leveling individual skills was also something I wasn't really used to because by that point, most of the way XP worked was just like you get extra levels, you get stat bonuses, and that's really as far as it went. So I was introduced to a lot of different mechanics that I wasn't used to in my JRPGs.
mm.
Um,
Very much sort of like a format trend-setting title. This one.
yes, it was like I say, I class them as Western RPGs, but you can call them action RPGs. They've sometimes been called.
Mm,
It's a different kind of RPG. Like it's a different thing on the spectrum. I like both. Some people don't. Some people can't stand the JRPGs, and some people don't like these kind of things. But and Bethesda was definitely they definitely were the trendsetters. I mean, BioWare. I'm thinking of the old BioWare games, and I'm trying to think when the first BioWare game came out to compare. I think you're looking at Knights of the Old Republic, stuff like that, and I'm trying to remember the years of it. But that was a slightly different formula. But this was the introduction to me from the Bethesda formula.
Baldur's Gate was 1998 on Windows and 2000 on the Mac, but this would have been.
I didn't play the first Baldur's Gate, but I played the second. So whenever the second came out, I did play that one. I don't know if it was before, but
But
before.
it wasn't first or third person, was it? It was that
No,
traditional sort of
it's
orthographic.
yeah, it's what they call nowadays a classical RPG. So it's like yeah,
Yeah,
it was technically a real time kind of strategy RPG. It was good. Baldur's Gate was good, but it was completely different. It was different from the JRPGs, and it was different also from. And again, the thing about the Bethesda games is you only play as yourself.
mm,
So in the JRPGs, normally you've got a group, or and in Baldur's Gate also you have a group of adventurers. And
yeah,
in obviously the Bethesda games, you're by yourself.
yeah. I mean, like, did you have companions in Oblivion? I don't think you did. Did you? I can't remember.
I I honestly don't. I don't remember having any.
No, I
Um,
don't.
but it was a long time ago. So
But Baldur's Gate was just great. The first, the second, and then you had Neverwinter Nights. Just all
mm,
around the sort of 2000 mark, 2001 and stuff. So yeah, those were sort of trendsetters as well. But it was when it comes to
different
sort
type.
of when it comes to sort of like the first person and view and the third person view bundled together, so you could go from one to the other. Um, Oblivion really was a trendsetter. I mean, I think it was in Morrowind as well. You could do first and third, as I recall.
And also there was, unless I'm getting no, I'm sure that then there was crafting as well. So crafting was quite a. You didn't get crafting in well at that point the JRPGs didn't really have a crafting system. So it was one of the ones where, I remember you could pick herbs and stuff like that. You could even make. If I'm wrong, Pete, like I say, you might remember a bit more than me. So if I get stuff wrong and I'm confusing it with another game, but I'm pretty sure you could make spells. Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. You could make spells in Morrowind as well. One of the big reasons why I loved Morrowind so much was that you could become a god in terms of powers and abilities. You
Yeah.
worked it out because there was like a flying spell as well.
You could fly around, could you?
Yeah, and if you sort of,
Oh, cool.
you could overclock it, so to speak, and sort of like tweak the spell where you could literally just go from one side of the island to the other in a matter of seconds. It was just absolutely
Oh,
brutal.
that sounds cool.
Yeah, it was awesome. I bet if you got to the top of the skill, the peak of the skill, and you could sort of like abuse the crafting system and just you could just literally become a god. It was amazing. Um, But yeah, I mean, one of the other reasons why I like Oblivion so much as well is because it has two talented voice actors. One being Patrick Stewart. So
Does he play the guy at the beginning? Is that right?
he plays the Emperor,
Hmm.
and Sean Bean plays his son.
Does he? Well,
Uh,
that character has to die then if it's Sean Bean.
uh, well, yeah, they both die.
Well,
So
yeah, well, it's a given. Sean Bean doesn't play characters that don't die.
yeah,
It's in his contract, bruv.
um, so yeah, obviously Patrick Stewart, who was the Emperor, he dies at the beginning.
Yeah, I remember that.
Spoiler alert. And then Sean Bean, who plays the son, who was the crowned king, or he was going to be crowned or something. But then you had the Oblivion crisis, and he ends up sacrificing his life to save Tamriel. Um, and the end sequence of which is awesome because you had Dagoth was I want to say Dagoth or no Molag, one of the gods
Yeah.
appears in the city and just starts trashing things. It was awesome. Um, so yeah, I mean, like Oblivion really sort of took Morrowind to a different level, but it was more restricted as well. It wasn't as free as Morrowind. I think they took away the flying spell as well, even though it did have spell crafting. They
Yeah, I do. Like I say, because it was such a long time ago, I do remember the spellcrafting,
yeah
but I didn't get heavily into it. It was a game that I actually felt, I think I felt at the time a little overwhelmed by, because because there was so much to do and there were so many mechanics going on. I think originally I felt a little overwhelmed
yeah.
when it first appeared on the Xbox.
So this, I
Um,
mean, like this was their first game for the newer consoles. So this came out on the 360 and the
and the
PlayStation 3,
PlayStation 3, yeah.
2006 and 2007 respectively. Um,
And would you say would you say that was the game that put them into the public eye kind of thing? That was the game where they
no,
became.
it was Morrowind.
You think Morrowind
It
did
was
that?
definitely Morrowind. They gained so much fame from Morrowind, and then Oblivion just sort of smashed them through. Basically, the competition. They just destroyed all the competition with with Oblivion. But Morrowind was the one that actually got them notice. You know.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, Oblivion, absolutely brilliant. If you haven't played that, go and play it. What are you doing? So yeah, moving on. Here we go. So they bought the Fallout license.
Yes, the
I
Fallout 1 and 2 obviously were made by different companies, and then they bought the license to make number 3 onwards, didn't they?
Yeah, a lot of people say they didn't get the Fallout universe. They didn't really sort of fully understand the Fallout universe because they did adapt it quite. As I recall, the Fallout 1 and 2 were orthographic view. It was sort of like your early Baldur's Gate style.
Yeah.
And then with Fallout 3, they transformed it into a first and third person game. Now, we like Fallout 3. We absolutely adore Fallout 3. Um, this was with that voice actor. What's his name?
Liam Neeson
That's the one.
played the father.
Yeah. He did an okay job.
Yeah, he did all right.
But the story was cool.
I think for me, Pete, I think it was Morrowind really got you into Bethesda games. I think for me, even though I did play Oblivion before Fallout 3, I think for me it was Fallout 3
Right.
that really made me really make yeah okay. So I like these kind of games.
What did you
Um,
like about Fallout 3 so much?
um, Fallout 3 is probably in my top 5 favorite games ever. It's up there for
Hmm.
sure. It was certainly in the top 10. Um, I think for me it was I had played open world games before, but I remember that, and I think other people have said this as well. I remember the point when you leave the vault, the Fallout 3,
Hmm.
and you come out the vault, and there's just good at the time, good graphics, and you see this big open world in front of you,
Yeah.
and technically you can go anywhere, and you can go anywhere. It's not gated off. Granted, if you go the wrong way, you'll run into a deathclaw and be one-shotted,
Yeah.
but you can. And it was just like you come out the vault and you see all this whole area, and you really feel that you really feel in the world. It's kind of like, okay, so this was my first Fallout game, and the character, from a character perspective, he's been stuck in the vault his whole life. So both you and the character are seeing this for the first time,
Yeah.
and it's like, wow. and just that feeling, it really got me, Pete. And I was engrossed, even though I can look back at it and say, okay, the story was you hunt for your father, you track him down, then it's to do with the water. I'm not going to worry that much about spoilers. It's such an old game, but I won't say everything.
Yeah,
But basically, it's about providing water, and that is the story. It's a very simple story.
yeah,
It's not complicated at all. But all the side quests are generally mostly high quality. There's so much to see and do, and as we talked about in our first review of Starfield, and I'm sure we'll probably mention it a little bit more when we get to it in this list, but it didn't feel like it repeated. It didn't.
yeah.
That's not for me anyway. Not for me. Now, whether or not there were, yeah, I mean, there was only so many enemies and stuff like that, but the tile sets and everything for me looked different, and there was enough variation and stuff that I was seeing that I didn't feel I was just rinse and repeating.
Well, there was a lot of junk around, and
Yeah, there
you
was.
know, when you come out of the vault, you feel so small. You're like, oh my
Yeah,
god, and you're instantly wanting to know what the fuck happened.
yeah, and then you got all these robots kind of flying around. You got the robot which is talking about the Enclave,
Yeah,
and then suddenly it's just like, and you're like, what's the Enclave? You don't know any of this stuff, so. And then you got the enemy designs are pretty cool. You've got a whole bunch of these mutated creatures, which is quite realistic. You can imagine if there was nuclear fallout and hundreds of years have gone past, they would evolve. So you get these big flies, and the death claws are pretty scary, especially if you first come across them and you're not prepared that they will easily kill you.
yeah,
And so there's a bunch of interesting enemy types, and then you've got your scumbag raiders and stuff like that. And it's just all good. And there is branching storylines to a certain degree. You can, there's kind of, if you want to be more of a good guy, you can help this town called Megaton. And if you want to be more of a bad guy, you can say, I'm going to blow up Megaton because there's a big bomb in the middle of it. And you can do that and be much more of a bad guy character.
yeah,
Both options are there for you. So it did also have dueling branches as well, at least to a certain degree. And it was just super mutants are in it, and they can be hilarious sometimes. And you got a bunch of companions in the game, which are quite funny. You could get a super mutant companion, or you could get like this robot who stuff. And it was just, for me, it was the first Bethesda game I really got into, even though technically it was the second one I played. It I loved it, and I bought all the DLC for it, and I played all the DLC for it, the pit and all this stuff that you got for it.
yeah. That's right.
Um,
Yeah,
um,
I,
so yeah, for me, classic, mate.
I mean, I just liked the whole survival aspect of it. I like
Yep.
you were scrambling to get things together to sort of like carry on, and you found yourself in like all these really scary places, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's just absolutely fab. They really nailed the whole theme perfectly with that one.
Yeah, and we just did a podcast, obviously, the Halloween podcast, where we were talking about horror, and it's not horror, but there is atmosphere to it
Yeah,
for sure.
very foreboding atmosphere.
Yeah.
Um, so moving swiftly on, because there is actually quite a lot to get through still. So fucking Bethesda. Fallout New Vegas. Now I played a little bit of this. I kind of lost interest because there were other things going on. But you played this all the way through, right?
I finished this. Yeah, I did, and it's by Obsidian, who are also known for their RPGs. They made the Knights of the Old Republic 2. They made, and they've made other games. Outer Wilds, which I think was their latest game.
Didn't go
Or
down
the
too well, that one.
No, it is a very good game. And if you ask a lot of people, especially Fallout fans, they'll tell you that this is the best of the 3D Fallout games. That
Mm.
they
Okay.
think that it is better than Fallout 3 and Fallout 4. Um, I think they might have a point with Fallout 4. We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
But I think it's probably better than Fallout 4. Is it better than Fallout 3? It didn't wow me as much as Fallout 3, but it was pretty damn consistent.
It felt like an
There was
extension of
it
Fallout 3.
it was a bit of an extension. I preferred. I didn't like the fact that he just kind of your character just kind of wakes up with amnesia, right? He's a courier or something, and he gets taken out. And I don't know. I didn't. I think I just preferred the whole. oh, you're being in a vault your whole life. You have no idea what's out there.
Yeah.
That opening for me, because I was coming from the same place, was much more powerful than just, oh, you're a courier. You were just a courier who was taking a package somewhere, and that's literally your background.
Yeah, 3 was a much better start, definitely,
Yeah,
than New Vegas.
but it's a good game though, and they have been talk about remastering it, and if they did, I sure would play it, and I'd probably say that you should as well if they do remake it. It's worth your time as well, Pete.
Yeah, yeah. If they remake it, definitely, I'll go check it out. So that was 2010 October, and then in December they published, along with id Software, Quake 3 Arena. Now, this I played.
What, Quake 3 Arena?
Yeah, I swear this was on the PC as well. It's only got Xbox 360 listed. Yeah, maybe I'm confusing it with the previous title. I don't know, but yeah, I did play Quake for a bit. It was all right, good fun. Moving on, Brink.
I
Never
remember
played.
Brink. Do you not remember Brink, the advertising for that?
I remember. I remember the cover. I'd never played it though.
Yeah, it's published by Bethesda, as a lot of them are coming. A lot of them are actually published by them. Splash
Yeah.
Damage, yeah, yeah. The next game, Hunted the Demon Forge, I played that with Alan
All right.
in co-op. It was a co-op game. I thought it was good. Alan hated it. Simple as that.
Okay. Now Rage. Rage was a failure, wasn't it? As I recall.
Yeah, I don't know if it was a total failure because they made a sequel, didn't they?
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. Now
Oh God.
Skyrim. This is what broke. This was like legendary title.
This is their biggest game of all time. I don't think there's anything. It sold the most. They remastered it 20 times.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and it's their defining game. I mean, if you think of Bethesda, I think most people, you name one game, it's going to be Skyrim.
It's most
So
likely going to be Skyrim. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just a great title. It was so good. I even released a mod for it, which did quite well.
that's right.
Mage robes of Winterhold, opulent outfits. Yes, it was me that did it. And yeah, I don't have access to that profile anymore, and I'm gutted because I can't remember the bloody password. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, Skyrim, yeah, it was even more restricted in terms of mechanics than Oblivion. So it was, and then they sort of brought in this whole fast travel thing. I think they had it in Oblivion, and we spoke about fast travel
Yeah.
in great depth. So yeah, I mean, like, it was a good story, nice side quests, and like there was sort of like different ways of approaching a quest most of the time, and yeah, I mean, like, Skyrim has been talked about to death, so like.
For me, it was the second Elder Scrolls, but I will admit that it probably was. I played Skyrim more than I played Oblivion.
Mm,
I remember the good old our mate Todd Howard, who was in full force when this was coming out. I remember him talking about this Radiant Quests, I think he called it,
mm,
where there would be an infinite amount of quests. So what the game would do, the game would kind of like rolling dice. Basically, the game would roll the dice and tell you what the mission objective was. Mainly, it was mostly kill X amount of in cave, or it was collect something, which normally means you had to kill somebody to collect it.
yeah.
And then it would choose a random dungeon.
I think it chose an area that you hadn't been to, so I think it did actually check.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that, but
No, I believe you're right, and I quite liked it, even though after maybe the fourth or fifth one, you kind of realize what all it really was. But it gave you a reason to go somewhere, I suppose.
mm,
Even though the missions were, like I say, after a couple, it was rinse and repeat. But I put a lot of time into that game. I did. I didn't think the
I
main quest was amazing. I didn't. I'll be honest. I didn't think the main quest was amazing.
okay. But the side
But
quests more than made up for it, though.
yeah, the side quest made up for it. And come on, I mean, who doesn't want to fight a dragon, right? So it was
Mm,
pretty cool fighting a dragon, especially considering you'd just be wandering around. And I really like that aspect that sometimes you'd just be wandering around. And technically, the dragon could attack you anywhere. Granted, there were certain spots in a game where it was nearly always there, but technically, they could attack you anywhere. And then you'd fight the dragon, normally quite a challenging fight, normally, and you'd get something out of it. and then there's a whole go into dungeons trying to learn the new voice powers,
Yeah, that's right.
the shouts. So I did like it. It probably is my second after Fallout 3. I'd probably put it as my second favorite Bethesda game.
Yeah,
Even though it did take stuff away, but because I didn't play enough of the older games, I suppose it's one of those things like you, if you didn't have it in the first place, you don't know you've lost it. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So
yeah.
um, yeah, no, Skyrim. It's hard. I mean, I don't know if anyone doesn't like Skyrim, dude. It's one of those games where everyone likes Skyrim.
I think people who never played RPGs before or didn't like RPGs before ended up liking Skyrim.
Ended up liking, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it gained so much of an extended fan base. Yeah, it was just like it was
And
perfect time.
especially on the consoles, you got to remember, Pete. Like on the PC, I suppose maybe because the other Bethesda games are much more accessible, I think, on the PC.
Mm,
You got to remember that this was coming out on all the consoles now, and of course, it was a very beautiful game, especially for its time. So, yeah, and a lot of people were really kind of like, I did. It appealed to more. It appealed to more casual people than I think any of the other uh,
oh, for sure,
Bethesda games have, and probably still
for sure.
that's still the
Yeah,
case.
definitely.
Yeah.
So, moving swiftly on, we've got Dishonored 2012.
Never played, but heard loads of good things about this from Arcane Studios, who've also gained a good reputation up until this year when they released Redfall, which was a train wreck.
Yeah. Oops.
But to that point, they were Dishonored. I haven't played it, but a lot of people say a lot of good things about that game.
It's very
So
gothic-y, as I recall. I mean, I played a
yeah,
tiny bit of it. Yeah, very gothic-y.
I think the mission design and the fact is that I think maybe the freedom from which you can kind of do the quests, I think, is a big thing. Like there's so many different ways to kind of do the objectives.
Yeah.
A lot of freedom.
Uh, Now, Doom 3,
BFG edition.
I really liked Doom 3. Um, I, I want to say it wasn't as popular as the other Dooms, but I mean, like it came out on every platform you can think of, pretty much, apart from Apple Mac. But yeah, I mean, like it was. It, I, I really liked it because of the first person sort of level of graphics, and I think this one really sort of tried pushing it really quite far in terms of visual fidelity and stuff. Um, it was a decent storyline. They tried to deviate a little bit, and
Yeah,
so yeah, I mean it was good. I really liked that one. Then you had like a re-release of Doom 1 and
yeah.
2.
These were. I remember these coming back on the Xbox.
And yeah, so that was 2019. Now,
Well, hold on, Pete. The next one is the Elder Scrolls Online, but there's actually two of them because the first one is the initial release, which was just on the PC. If you look, it's 2014,
yeah,
and then they came to consoles 2 years later. And there's two different things. It was an absolute train wreck. I remember Angry Joe did a video on it, and it was an absolute train wreck of epic proportions when it first came out,
mm,
and it was all over the shop. By the time it got to the consoles, which was 2 years later, it was in a better shape.
mm,
And I did play. I I was very engrossed with it for a good year and a half. It was the game that I played all the time,
right,
even so much as I ended up having a guild and stuff like that. Um, I won't go into too much detail because I doubt anyone really cares. But what happened is basically the guild ended up being a problem because of some of people in it, and it can happen when you're in an MMO game. It only takes some people, and then some people want power, and it ends up being political, Pete.
yeah, yeah,
And once I realised what was going on, I realised, you know what, I'm done, and that was it for me. But the game itself was very good. I know you won't like me saying that because I know that it affected the release date for other Elder Scrolls Online, but for an MMO, it was a lot of fun in that world.
yeah. I mean, okay, I tried it, and I mean, like, it was all right. I was just upset that I bought the game assuming that I could go anywhere within
Yeah,
the
yeah.
world, but it was very restrictive. They only had a few continents released at the time, and And at that time, I think I was playing Lord of the Rings online anyway. So I pretty much sort of
But when you played it, Pete, I believe that that was when it was still one of its earlier incarnations, where it was like a lot of areas were level gated off. They actually ended up changing that after I left, but I did kind of still kind of follow what was going on for a couple of years. They ended up changing it, so it's probably much more accessible
mm,
nowadays, where stuff isn't level gated. The game levels with you, whereas back then, like that was the starting area was the starting area, and you couldn't just go anywhere you wanted because you'd be killed.
yeah.
But I think they changed that in the end. But yeah,
Yeah, Tamriel was still the sort of the PvP area, though, wasn't it?
yeah.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, Elder Scrolls is what it is, and I'm annoyed at its existence because if it wasn't for that, we would have had another Elder Scrolls title
Yeah.
before then. But anyway, so moving on to Wolfenstein, I never played
Never played this series. No,
No, never played. Evil Within again, never played.
never played.
And as of this video, this title, I believe, is going to be free with the Epic Games launcher. So if you have the Epic Games launcher, guys,
Knock yourselves out.
knock
Yeah.
yourself out because this is going to be free either within a week or now. I don't know, but go and check. Um, so then we had Wolfenstein Old Blood, which I don't remember this. This was May 2015.
Uh, I think it was just another sequel, wasn't it? It was a sequel to the last one.
Uh,
Although that's only a year later, isn't it?
yeah,
Did they really do a sequel after a year? I don't know. We didn't play them, Pete, so we probably weren't paying attention, to be honest. But
yeah.
both made by the same company, Machine Games. Bethesda published them.
Elder Scrolls Online had another update.
That was the one I was telling you about. That was when it just came on the consoles. You
Oh,
see,
okay.
it's like a
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Fallout Shelter was a mobile game which I played a bit of.
What was it like?
It was all right. It was like a sort of like a base management game essentially. Um, Now we come to Fallout. Now,
Fallout 4.
um, uh, this I was so disappointed with, just purely because it gave you the ability to base build pretty much straight away, and I hated that. I was like, no, 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 no. I want to be able to strive, to struggle, to survive in a Fallout world. That's the whole point. So if you're giving me a means to build my own base straight away, that's really destroying that whole survival aspect of the game. And I just thought, well, if you're going to give it to us at the late game stage, at the end game, right? Why did you have to give it to us straight away? And that really annoyed me. I think it completely ruined the game. Also, the storyline. I remember Angry Joe doing a review of
It
this.
thing is, it's so true though. It's so true what he says
It
that
is,
your child gets kidnapped and it's like, oh no, I've got to find my kid, and then all these other things appear and you just forget about it.
yeah,
I did.
yeah. Everyone did because they don't want to. You don't want to continue with the main quest line straight away, do you? You want to,
No, you want to have a look around. Yeah.
yeah, and then you remember and you feel just like really guilty about it. It's like, oh shit, yeah, my son. Um, who turns out to be a fucking bellend anyway. But anyway, um,
Mm.
so we won't say much about Fallout. I mean, like, I didn't like it, to be quite honest.
Um, I liked some aspects of it. One of the things I didn't like was they restricted your dialogue. You had less dialogue options than you did in the older games,
Right.
um, and the settlement stuff. I can see what they were going for, but for me, it was a decent idea. I didn't hate it in the same way you did, but it was a decent idea. But the execution didn't work. I'm afraid Bethesda, that game was, it bugged the hell out for me. That was one of, like, all their games have got bugs, but that for me was one of the worst experiences. Fallout 4
Yeah.
was the settlement stuff was all bugged. The amount of crazy things that would happen, like you'd fast travel to one of your bases or one of the settlements, and all of a sudden there'll be 10, 20 super mutants just attacking, just appear when you do, and
Yeah,
it gets crazy. It's just like it's just not realistic. It just and then you had to set all the amount of civilians you had. I think you could have up to 10 or 12 or something like that, and you had to give them all. You could give them all jobs that they wouldn't do, and it was all. It's like they're meant to do these jobs. The mechanics did not work.
yeah,
Whether or not they patched it, because I after all these bugs, I left about 3 or 4 months into the game. Like I was like, you know what, this game's too broken for me because I actually didn't finish the game because it was too buggy.
yeah.
So that it was the only Bethesda game that's properly stopped me playing because of the bugginess, because of those systems. And I kind of wished I never even touched the settlement system. And if I were to go back and play it now, I wouldn't touch the settlement system
No.
because I originally wanted to, but the bugs drove me crazy and technically drove me out of the game.
I mean,
That's
by
that's the way
this
it was.
point, it was by this point that the modders were fixing the broken game anyway.
Yeah,
Like a trend was starting to happen,
yeah, yeah.
which was just disappointing. If you need a modding the modding fan base to do that kind of thing, it's not it's not a good look, is it?
You done fucked it up, haven't you?
You don't fucked it up, boy.
Yeah.
And then we had Doom in 2016, which was like a relaunch of Doom, I guess.
I've got to say, I never played it, but I've heard people, everybody likes it. Again, I've not heard somebody say they didn't like it.
Yeah, I played it. Oh, it was great.
Was it good?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, like, you have to get used to the whole system again because you move really quickly. You're like, damn, uh, I'm moving really fast at the moment. But you get used to it, and yeah, I was full on.
I was told that the executions are things of beauty. Like you feel like Superman and stuff when
Oh
you're
yeah,
doing
it
these
made you feel
executions.
so powerful. You're just like shooting up to people and then sort of ripping their heads off, and like all these different types of monsters. Oh, it was great.
Dang, I got to play that, dude.
Yeah,
I keep putting it
it
off.
is it is good. Dishonored 2, 2016, never played.
No, apparently that was not quite. I think that was not quite as good as the first one.
Yeah.
But
Elder Scrolls Legends. Um,
uh,
that was a mobile game.
oh, was that the
Oh, it was a card game. That's right.
Oh, the card game. Okay, it's not the one I'm thinking of then. Okay, yeah.
We'll move on from that. Prey.
I heard again that's from Arcane Studios, the same people who did Dishonored. I heard good things about that, but it didn't sell well. It didn't do very well.
Yeah, I was slightly disappointed with it.
Did you play
I
it?
think I played the first sort of half an hour, and I was like, nah, fam. It's just like,
Mm-mm.
nah, I'm done. Uh, Quake Champions, never played. That was 2017. There was a
PC
uh,
only.
Dishonored Death of the Outsider. Again, never played that. Evil Within 2, I watched someone play. I thought it was quite interesting. It wasn't even them that made it anyway. It was Tango Gameworks.
Yeah, they published it.
Wolfenstein 2, New Colossus, didn't play. Wasn't very interested in an alternative World War Two.
Yeah, they didn't. They published it as well. They didn't make it, so it's the same company who made the other one, Machine Games.
Now we
Oh, oh God!
come with lies to his sweet little lies.
Great song, thanks. I like the song. It's a good song.
This game made that song famous.
It certainly did for me.
Fallout 76, 16 times the lies. So this was a very
It just works, Pete. It just works.
yeah. So I mean, like Todd Howard appeared on stage at one point in I think it was probably 2017 or whatever year it was, and made all of these fabrications about how great Fallout 76 was, and when the game came out, it was just completely dire. If you want a good example, just head over to Angry Joe's channel and watch his review. Um, it was there was no NPCs. It was boring. It was so buggy. Um,
Some of the bugs are just some of the bugs are so funny. They have me in hysterics. Some of the enemies just like teleport across the screen like in their teabag poses.
yeah.
It's just so funny. I mean that's comedy gold. That is that game.
Such a major failure that it's become a meme.
Yep.
And yeah, Bethesda. that was when I think everybody sort of woke up and smelt the bitter coffee of the fragility of Bethesda games, because I think that at this point, um,
Bloom
it
was
was,
off the rose by then, Pete.
yeah,
Bloom was off the
it was
rose.
starting to show, cracks at the seam with their engine and stuff, and yeah, it was just, yeah,
And also, it's. Do you remember a couple of years prior on one of the E3? I can't remember which year exactly. It was a couple of years before Fallout 76. They
mm,
did an advert where they were talking about and it was kind of like a caricature advert, kind of tongue in cheek about single player games
mm,
and how the focus they were on single player games and how single player games they still cared about single player games and stuff like that.
right,
And then to kind of a couple of years later to completely make a game which is the opposite of a single player game and damage one of their best brands they had, which obviously is the Fallout stuff, and it has been damaged because they screwed with the law.
yeah,
They screwed
yeah,
with the
they
law,
did, yeah, they did,
and a lot of long time Fallout fans are not very happy. I'm not very happy with them, and I didn't even play the first two games. But apparently they screwed with the law, which really breaks the first two games. Which Bethesda probably don't care because they don't own the first two games, so they're just like, they don't really care.
yeah,
But they ruined the story in that, and it's I don't know. It's such a non-Bethesda game for Bethesda to make. If
yeah,
this was their
they
idea of trying to branch out and try something new, which some companies like to do, well, it didn't work well for them, did it?
they wanted their own online game, didn't they? And
They've already got Elder Scrolls Online. They need that for.
well, that wasn't them technically. It was ZeniMax, which is the company that owns Bethesda. So it wasn't really their title, Elder Scrolls Online. ZeniMax just said to them, "Oh, we want to do Elder Scrolls Online. So can you postpone any edition, Elder Scrolls single player games until we're done with Elder Scrolls Online?" Essentially, that's what happened.
Yeah.
But they clearly wanted their own, so they decided to go with this. And as you said, like 2 years after saying, "Oh no, we're all about single player games," it's like, yeah, really. Um,
Thing is that everything about Fallout 76 was the worst you could imagine. The
yeah,
build up was bad. The launch status was bad. The servers didn't work to start with. They had a whole bunch of server issues just getting on the game, and then there was all the bugs in the game, all the promises that didn't come true. They had problems with their shop, and then there was problems with them saying that we're not gonna do pay to win. Well, you can only buy cosmetics. We're not going to buy like power ups. Then they started putting power ups in the game, so they lied about that, pissing everybody off.
yeah. I
Then they
just, I
had they had special editions. Pete, it gets worse. They had special editions where you got the power armor helmet. Right, I remember Angry Joe talking about it. He's got the power armor helmet. Some of the helmets had to be recalled because they were a health hazard.
really, I don't,
Yeah,
don't remember. All I remember is Angry Joe's review, and he's like, the vault opens, and he's all really excited
it's,
and happy, and he's just like,
it's
yeah, let's
great.
go. And then he
It's
just
the look on
sees,
his face. Yeah,
he's just like, no, close it up, close it. I'm done. I'm done. I'm just
yeah, and
coming back.
you've got a look on his face of utter disgust.
Yeah. Oh
And
god.
it's great.
Yeah.
And then they had the helmets had to be recalled, and then there was something else to do with these bags that they were meant to get in one of these editions,
Oh yeah. They were supposed to be
and they got
canvas, and they ended up being,
and they ended up being like these plastic bags.
yeah,
It's just like everything that Bethesda touched in that 2 year period of when Fallout 76 came out, everything they touched and everything they tried to do went tits up in their face. And I don't feel that sorry for them because they're the ones who decided to go in that direction. But everything they touched went to shit
oh,
for so many years.
this was a real fall from grace. I mean, like,
Definitely.
this was like a big fallout.
Yeah.
So yeah,
And that's why Starfield was so bloody important to them because they had to build their rep up. And we'll get to that in a second. We've already done a podcast on Starfield.
yeah.
But,
Well, we can
you
sort
know,
of have an exclusive update for how we feel about
yeah, I
Starfield
tell you.
when we get there. Um, so moving swiftly onwards, Elder Scrolls Blades. Now I played this extensively on the mobile, and it's okay, but I ended up having to mod it because it was just getting to be really unfair. So I modded the app on my mobile and had a lot of fun.
Mm.
So yeah, Blade's great. I mean, if you
I didn't touch it. I didn't play it.
yeah. So Rage 2, 2019.
There was a
Um,
bit. There was a big. They put a lot of money behind it. There was a lot of publicity, a lot of marketing behind Rage 2.
yeah,
They really thought it was going to be a big hit, and it ended up flopping.
yeah,
Unfortunately for them.
very colourful, but no, yeah,
Yes,
dire. Wolfenstein Youngblood was just literally another nail in the coffin here at this point. People hated it, I think, in terms of this whole trendy youth sort of like, yeah, we're
the
trying to,
characters. Yeah, the characters, the two girl characters, the two sisters, they were absolutely cringeworthy and they were hated.
yeah,
And every review I watched of the game said that the gameplay is all right, but the characters are so unlikable that it ruins the game.
yeah.
So you've got and it was. I probably won't get into it. 'Cause that's probably a whole different podcast. But let's just say it was not. It was a little bit of unfortunate that some of the wokeness getting involved, and it did get involved, and it made the two characters just not likable, and it played a part in it. To be honest,
I think what people need to understand about what we mean when we say too wokeness and stuff is like we're not standing against equality in any way, shape, or form. But what we are standing against is this forced sense
hmm
of inclusivity to the point where it breaks the freedom of expression from creators. If a creator wants to build a world with just black people or just white people, he should feel comfortable to do so without having like all these fucking death threats sent to them and all that kind of thing. This is what we're missing from
and
from
and also for the record, when it comes to playing as girl characters, I play as girl characters all the time.
yeah, I play go
Like,
karts all the time. My character
yeah,
in Monster Hunter World was female. Yours was as well.
yeah, and also like when I play Mass Effect, which is one of my favorite RPGs, I had more fun being my femshep, as they're called, than I did the male shep.
Yeah,
She's better. The actress is better. The character's actually better. It's actually more fun playing as the chick in that. In
absolutely.
that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't care if I've got nothing against playing as girl characters at all. Not at all. It's fine by me.
But
So
we
I don't
don't.
care
Yeah,
about
I
that.
mean, we don't have any problem with females being involved with games, but don't force it upon us. Don't pretend. I mean, like I think it was Call of Duty that had female soldiers in World War Two and stuff, and
Even though they were not allowed to be in World War
that
Two, like
didn't
really,
happen.
really,
Yeah, it's just
yeah.
annoying. So that's what we mean. Okay. Um, all right. So moving swiftly on, Wolfenstein Cyberpilot. That was a sort of a VR game um, in the same year, 2019. Doom Eternal came out in 2020. Um,
Did you play that? The
yes. Oh,
sequel?
yes. I played
Was
that all
that
the
as
way
good as
through.
I didn't? Was that as good as the first one then, or
Oh
different?
God. If not, well, better than
Better.
yeah. It was. They had some new mechanics and yeah, the fights were brutal. You really had to fucking concentrate. Yeah, it was really good. Doom 64.
Those are remasters, aren't they?
Yeah, I didn't play that. Then we had a Quake remaster. Um, 2021, we saw Deathloop, which was really dire, apparently.
I haven't played it, but it's on Game Pass, so I've actually got it downloaded onto my Xbox, but I haven't played it. The premise, I like that kind of stuff, the whole like Groundhog Day stuff. The premise looks interesting to me, but I have heard also, like you, that apparently it's not
It didn't go down well, I
fantastic.
think. Yeah.
I might try it at some point.
Ghostwire Tokyo. Now, this was supposed to be quite good, but again, not something I've played.
It
Um,
looked interesting because obviously it's a kind of it's a Japanese kind of horror-ish kind of game,
yeah,
but I heard that the gameplay is really repetitive.
yeah.
So I think that maybe gameplay. Well, I think game that it's an interesting concept, but I think maybe they didn't quite nail the gameplay.
Hi-Fi Rush 2023, Mighty Doom 2023, Redfall, which
Redfall.
everyone thought Redfall because there was some news leaked a few years before that that Bethesda had bought the rights to Redfall, or like the website called Redfall, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, that's Elder Scrolls."
Oh yeah,
But
right.
it really wasn't. Yeah.
That must have been a disappointment when it's like, no, it's a crappy vampire
Oh, it
game.
was. Yeah, it was a disappointment. I remember that. But yeah, no, I
Um,
never played Redfall.
once again, the concept looked interesting because technically it was taking the kind of Left for Dead, more or less doing a Left for Dead clone with vampires. And I thought, you know what, there's actually some scope here because zombies have been done to death. The zombie stuff has been done to death. So having vampires and maybe you could add certain different kind of ways to kill them and stuff like that to do with sunlight. You could be a little bit creative.
Mm.
But in the end, it ended up being again it's just another train wreck, dude. It was meant to be 60 frames per second, and as is becoming a theme this year, Microsoft bulked on the 60 frames per second, and then no, we can only do 30 frames per second now, even though this is our so-called most powerful console. We can only do 30 frames per second.
It's embarrassing, mate. It's they're favouring quality over sort of FPS at the moment.
But mate, there's no reason at all why these games can't give you an option. Give me an option. I'll put it on. Me personally, I'll put it on performance mode every time because I'm willing to sacrifice fidelity for performance.
I mean,
But to not even have the choice, why not put that choice in a game like they did with other games?
all it really is um, in intensive processing things like LOD, shadow resolutions, and stuff like that. Just degrade them for 60 FPS. I don't think people
Yeah,
will care that much. Anyway,
especially if it's a co-op game where you need to have fast reactions and stuff like that. Just like in 30 frames per second, it's really difficult to play first person shooters, and that's one of the reasons why I don't like Starfield
yeah,
because I have to play at 30 frames per second, and it makes the combat terrible to me. It makes it terrible.
you're giving us a clue there about Starfield. But anyway, we're nearly
Mm.
there. Quake 2, August 2023. I've not touched this.
Remaster.
As a remaster, yeah. And then, yeah, we've got
The
Starfield.
last one that's come out, there is one or two after, which are games that are meant to be coming out. We can have a little chat about, but
Yep.
Starfield. Well, we did a whole podcast on it, and I've got a little bit of an update. That in the meantime, I have come across the dungeon again.
Mm-hmm. The Fate
Um,
Dungeon. Yep.
yeah, and as I said to you the other night, I think I have to give up the exploration aspect, which goes against what I really want to do and how I feel I should do it, and what I want out of the game is to be able to explore space and stuff. But I mean, you can't even explore space really. You're talking about exploring just planets because there is no space exploration as such. But because of the way that they deal with the RNG and the way they deal with you coming across the same stuff, it's immersion breaking
Yeah.
too much now. So it's at the point where I'll do every side quest. I'll do all the side quests, and I may even do some of the kind of radiant quests where somebody will tell me to go somewhere, and I'll go there for that reason. But when it comes for me going to a planet, walking around, seeing a marker in the distance, and heading towards it, I'm not bothering.
Yeah.
If I'm on the planet to do something in particular, that's fine. I'll go do that. But I'm not going to go out of my way anymore to check these points of interest because there's nothing there.
That's the problem. There's 1,000 planets, but there's literally five of those planets have a city on them, and
Yeah.
everything else is literally just randomly generated. And unfortunately, there's going to be a lot of duplications, and in between. Any sort of settlements that you might come across, it's literally just going to be random resources and maybe an enemy if you're lucky. Uh, and yeah, I mean, I realized this fairly quickly, so that's why I decided to stick to sort of like quest-based exploring. So if someone asked me to go to a planet and sort something out, I'd go there and I'd do the thing, and then maybe I'd have a little wander around, but then it wouldn't be long before I would just jump back on my ship. And
Yep.
one other thing that really annoys me about Starfield is that you can't create a ship from scratch. You have to modify an existing ship. So if you have, say, like three that you like, and you want to make another one, you have to buy a ship first and then dismantle it and rebuild, which is really annoying. I don't understand why we can't just make one from scratch.
It's a bit weird, isn't it?
Yeah. So that kind of annoys me. And that saying is wide as an ocean, but as deep as a puddle comes back again. And what they should have done is have 100 planets. I mean, we had this conversation via Skype the other day, where why not just have 100 planets, which is nice and rich, full of detail and stuff like that, instead of like 1,000 planets. I think that would have been a lot better. But hey ho.
Yeah, there's no point. It's just having 1,000 planets there because it's got to be real. I use the term realistic with inverted commas. It's got to be
Yeah.
realistic because there's planets around other stars in real life, right? So they've got to have them. You might as well just not let us land on them. Just do what Mass Effect did and just have it that most of them we can't land on, even though there's not a particularly good reason for it, right? There's just nothing. Just say there's nothing there. There's no signs of anything there,
Yeah.
and that's it. And then have I don't even think they'd do 100. I think that's too much work for them. I'd settle for 20 planets. Honestly, if you're asking me, I'd settle for 20 planets where there's stuff to see on each of the planets and it's worthwhile going there. Not that you go there for 5 minutes and leave. That you go there, you spend an hour or something, minimum
Have,
an hour or 2 hours on each of these
I
planets.
mean, like, have 2 or 3 star systems, right? Give us one to start off with, and then have us actually traveling through the starship, and then landing on planets, and leaving planets and stuff like that. And then maybe sort of like Acts 2 of the main story, we unlock another star system, and then a third one, whatever.
Things that's what Mass Effect. This is something that we didn't cover really. Mass Effect for me is my favorite space RPG. It's certainly better than Starfield. It's not even close to me. And the way they did planets, there was criticism because I remember people complaining that there's nothing to see on these planets.
Mm,
There's more to see on those planets than there was on Starfield planets, and you had a vehicle as well.
yeah,
So you could use a vehicle, so you could actually ride around fast. But that had maybe 4, 5 planets where you actually went where proper stuff happened,
yeah.
and then you had maybe 10 other places where there were side quests. I think they should have taken that kind of route. I really do. I think that after they should have taken that kind of route. They should have said, okay, it's like you said, it's going to take place within, let's say, 5 star systems,
Mm,
right? And each star system, you're going to have 1 or 2 worlds where there's significant stuff to do on, and maybe some of the other worlds there's 1 or 2 side quests. So you go there and you spend half. I mean, you go there, you do 1 quest there or 2 quests there, and it takes you an hour or so, right? And then that's it. You've experienced that world, which can have different creatures on different climates. You've experienced that world. You've stayed there a little bit of time. You've done a couple of quests, and it's cool. You move on to the next one.
yeah. There wasn't
They
enough
should.
sort of variety of different kinds of planets for my liking. Like No Man's Sky, where you go down and it's red grass with a green sky, and then you go to another planet and it's
Yeah,
like blue grass with a purple sky and shit like that.
it's just. I just. As I said in our podcast, and I said to you privately, that game for me has an identity crisis.
Yeah,
It doesn't know. It doesn't know what it wants to be, and in the end, it's ending up being kind of nothing because it doesn't do anything particularly well. It does the RPG stuff the best of what it does, but everything else,
it's
it does
too.
it does space combat a little bit. It does gunplay that's not very good in my
Mm,
opinion. A little bit. It does base building a little bit. Do you see what I
yeah,
mean? It's a little bit of stuff, but it's the sum of its parts is it's just
it's literally Fallout in space. I mean, like, let's just
mm,
call it what it is. I had definite Fallout vibes whilst playing this. Very
I'm
strong.
I'm lowering my score. Let it be official. I gave it an 8. Boy, was I optimistic. I gave it an 8,
Yeah.
and me saying the extra point was because it was in space. So even with the extra the point, it gets a 6 now. So that means it's actually a 5,
Okay.
and it gets a 6 because it's in space.
Which means average.
Yeah.
So it's average. It's nothing special, unfortunately. So let's move on to future games now. So
On this list, we've got 4 of them, and now I don't think we care about apparently the rumored Wolfenstein 3 because we've not played any of them. So I don't even know if we need to bother about that
no,
one. The other 3 are, and we can talk about these in any order. Apparently, there's an Indiana Jones game that is coming out.
Yeah, but it being made by Machine Games, and
So it's actually just published
they're
by Bethesda
publishing it.
then.
I mean, I don't know Machine Games. I don't know what they've done, but yeah. So we'll put that one aside as well, and we'll talk about primarily Elder Scrolls 6. But first, I mean, Fallout 5. I don't know. I don't know,
Um,
mate. I mean, like they're going to have to go back to basics. I think.
they've damaged the lore,
Yeah.
and I don't know how they're gonna deal with that.
No, I don't either.
Because, like I say, and unless they just do the old kind of retcon where they'll just say that Fallout 76 was set in a different multiverse. Everybody use the multiverse thing, Pete. That's the easy cop out. It's the multiverse. It's a different universe.
or just
So none of the stuff in Fallout 76 mattered.
Or just don't even address it. Just do another Fallout 3 where it's all back to basics. It's a survival struggle game, and all that kind of thing. If it tries to be anything more than that, then it's whatever. I don't think I'm going to play it. So Elder Scrolls 6. Now they have massive shoes to fill, and when I say massive, I mean fucking huge. They have to revamp their game engine from the ground up. They have to satisfy the level of graphics that people are used to with the games released at the time. So there's a very high threshold here with graphics fidelity with other games. I mean, we just have to look at things like Witcher, and Lies of P, and so many other titles which have such high graphics, such good graphics, that Elder Scrolls is going to have to be at the very least similar, and they're going to have to really just work. They're going to have to perform a miracle, as far as I'm concerned, and I'm not entirely sure they're going to achieve that. And I'm very skeptical about Elder Scrolls 6 now. And I don't want to say that. I want to be looking forward to it, but I'm not, you know. And you
Mm.
know, there's still a speculation about where it's going to be set. They haven't mentioned anything. People have analysed the opening sort of like teaser trailer to the nth degree, and there's speculation and all that kind of thing, but we still don't really know for certain. And a lot of people are saying it's elsewhere, and Hammer.
Do you think, Pete, that it will come out? I know that obviously you're most likely going to probably play it on
Mhm.
PC, but do you think it will be out for the Xbox X, the kind of ending of that, or do you think that they may wait and say, well, it's going to be whenever the next Xbox and PlayStation come out, let's say 3 years for argument's sake.
I think
Um,
it's definitely going to be late gameplay, of the Series X. The sort of the end cycle of it.
the reason I ask, as since I will most, unless I end up buying myself by a £2,000 PC by then, which I probably won't, then I'll be playing it on the Xbox. The reason I say that is because if Starfield can't run on 60, then I've got to believe, I'm sorry to say, that again, I think technically for the console played, it's going to be 30, which automatically for me makes me very unhappy.
Well, this is what annoys me. It's like Todd Howard said that it's the Starfield is already optimized. It's not already optimized,
No
Todd.
way.
All right, we're not idiots. You can hit 60 frames a second on the Series X.
Of
You
course you can.
really fucking can. It's just that what you've done is you haven't thought about optimization during the development of the game. You've just literally sort of gone, right, we'll throw this here, and here, and here. We'll have loads of trees, blah, 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 blah. But it's like you haven't thought about it. I mean, it feels like an afterthought, the optimization process, So it can definitely hit 60 frames a second. Absolutely. I mean, your graphics card in the Series X is at the very least twice as powerful as my one. And I've optimized the game so that, I mean, I have a 1070 Ti, and I've got the game running between 40 frames and 60 frames. So if I can do that, I mean, the game looks good. I've had to dial back the settings a lot, but
The sliders, yeah.
that doesn't bother me. So what I care about is hitting 60 as much as possible. Granted, in cities it's hitting 40, but I don't really care, to be quite honest, mate.
Yeah, it's just knowing that kind of. I mean, I'm expecting it. If they change the engine and they prove me wrong, I'll be extremely happy. But I'm expecting it to be 30. So that automatically it kind of like that's my view is kind of like, so automatically I'm kind of like my head's already down. Do you know what
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean? Because I think on a technical level it will struggle
Well, this is
to
why
run
they
on
have,
the consoles.
as I said, they have a miracle to perform here, and they really need to go all out. Now, what I've heard a couple of years back, there was a rumor that they are going to be writing a brand new engine, and they didn't have that done in time for Starfield. So Starfield is a very highly upgraded version of the Creation engine, but Elder Scrolls 6 is going to be a brand new system. Apparently, this is what they said a couple of years ago. So I hope it's true, because there was a video with the Skyrim granny, which we've talked about, where she went
Mm,
to the studios and had
yeah,
her
yeah,
body scanned, and during that sort of 10-minute piece, there were developers working on assets, and they were like photogrammetry level, high resolution stuff.
yeah.
So if it's true, then good, I'm happy. But that's the level they're going to have to hit at the very least. um,
What would you? We'll leave the technical stuff aside because
yeah.
it'll be what it be, kind of thing. There's not much we can do. Just hope for the best. What What would you like them to put back in? I'm assuming stuff like spellcrafting. What from the older games that has been lost over the years would you like them to put back into it that were in the older games?
Well, in Morrowind, you start off and you feel like a pauper when you start off the game. You feel like a no good 2-bit, criminal, and
Yeah.
with nothing. So I want that feeling back, and I also want a progression system, a definite progression system. I don't want scaling enemies. Now, this is another factor about RPGs that they've lost. In Morrowind, the enemies weren't scaled, so they were at a set level, and as you got higher and higher in your level, you were able to kill these monsters easier and easier. Just like Souls games, you get more powerful, you go back to certain areas, and you can just completely twat the monsters really easily. That's what I want with the next Elder Scrolls games. Fundamentally, I don't want scaling enemies. Um, and I just, as you said, I want the spell crafting system back. I want to be able to fly around the map. Um, but all of this shit should be end game stuff. Like, I mean, ideally, no fast travel, but you unlock it towards the end. Um, and I want a lot more side quests. I want the in Morrowind. I don't know whether it was in Oblivion, but in Morrowind you had a temple faction, and you had to sort of go and be a sort of pilgrim and go around and do stuff, and that was a whole quest line. They took that out, certainly for Skyrim, I believe. I don't know about Oblivion, but I want that back. I just want more. I want this game to take me 200 hours.
Are you happy with the size of the Skyrim map, or would you want a bigger map than that?
Bigger. Yeah, I mean, like, there has to be, like, I'm not necessarily a fan of horse riding, but if there is going to be horse riding, then I'd want that to be, you know, good, not like in Skyrim where it was like highly restricted.
But basically, you want The Witcher 3. We both just want The Witcher 3.
I think so. Yeah. Um, I mean, like, even Witcher 3 had their map in parts. So,
Witcher 3. Do you want to know something? Also, Bethesda. Witcher 3, right? 60 frames per second.
yeah. There you go.
Just saying.
Yeah,
Just
it's
saying.
total bollocks, mate. They're just Um, so I mean, yeah, they've got a huge role to fill here. They've got a lot of work to do, and I'm not 100% certain that they're going to fulfill that. So I am a bit worried.
I think it really does. In my mind, it really does depend if they're really truthful and honest. And with their track record, you have to say that that's not always the case. That they are really going to finally, after all these years, finally ditch this
Yeah,
engine, which had held them back now, which maybe not initially, but is now holding them back from making the games they should be making. If they're really finally going to say, okay, it's done, but we need to evolve like the rest of
they
us.
just need to move over to the Unreal Engine, mate. I mean, I
Yeah,
keep bigging up the Unreal Engine, but you know, Jesus Christ, if the next Witcher trilogy is going to be on Unreal Engine, and we've seen how good the Unreal Engine can be. So there's really no excuse anymore, as far as I'm
yeah.
concerned.
Honestly, mate, I don't want to see the I really am at the point that I don't want to see the Bethesda engine again. I've had my fill of that engine. I've had my fill really of how Bethesda make their
Mm,
RPGs. That I know that sounds pretty harsh, but I'm just fed up of how the AI acts in their
yeah,
games. I'm fed up how and it is the same. It is the same as all their games. AI does some stupid
yeah.
things,
But
and at some point, it's just like, okay, come on, enough.
I mean, and here's the thing: we want them to succeed. We want them to go to the
Yeah,
next level and go, guys, look, if you did things the right way, you could have a completely, totally immersive world that people would just get lost in, like they did with Skyrim. Yeah, there was some janky stuff, but if you do things right, you can have it Witcher 3 level of immersion. And this Witcher 3 had this foreboding sort of like really musky atmosphere, and it was so distinctive you could almost smell the fucking land when you were playing it.
yeah.
And that's what we want. We want total and utter immersion. We don't want anything to take us out of the game. We don't want any fucking loading screens. We don't want to have to go up to a door, open it, and then have to go into a different cell. So this is
No more traveling via fast travel, like instead of actually being able to travel. No more navigating menus like you have to do in Starfield just to do anything. Too much, dude.
Yeah, instead of picking an area on a map and then selecting fast travel, how about we have to go to a town, find one of those cart rider things, and then say we want to go here, and then it will travel there in real time. But if you want to skip that, you can skip it. Why?
That's what I did in GTA when you got into a
Yeah.
taxi.
So why can't we? I want that. I don't want the ability to just sort of go, oh, I'll just go here. Oh, I'll just go back. No, no, no. Travel to one of them fucking. I can't even find the right word for it, but you know what I mean.
Carriage and horses,
Yeah.
isn't it?
If
Carriage
it's
and
not a
horses.
carriage and horse, maybe something else like riding an eagle or another bird or something like that. So yeah, that's what I want, and yeah, there's a very high bar here to fill. So yeah, well, all I can say is good luck.
Well, they've got at least I think like 3 years, haven't they, to sort it out. So
Yeah,
let's hope that.
everyone's saying it's going to be 26 now,
Yeah, that
2026.
is kind of what I would
Yeah.
expect. I'll look forward to it to a certain degree, but I also am going into it
Hmm.
realistically. They have fallen from grace. Starfield has not prepared their reputation to me. It doesn't, it's a better game than Fallout 76. It's not the train wreck Fallout 76 is. It's just quite an average
Hmm.
game. That's how I look at Starfield. Like it's not a train wreck. It's all
Yeah.
right. That's it. 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And then that's probably not enough for them to. That's not enough for them to reinvigorate me to say, yeah, Elder Scrolls 6. Yeah, it's going to be no, no. I'm very very dubious about it. Hopefully, it will end up being good, but it's just as likely that it won't.
The,
It's like could be either
the
way.
problem is they've cried wolf too many times. So
Yeah,
even when they do have like a presentation for Elder Scrolls 6, I'm not going to believe half the shit they say. And, we've been burnt so many times with not just them,
Yeah,
but other people, it's like a growing trend that's getting really,
you got to wait. You got to wait till you get it in your hands. Unfortunately,
yeah.
with that's the way it is nowadays.
So, yeah, we'll call it a day for this episode. Thank you everyone for listening. If you've gotten this far, and you like our discussions, please subscribe, click the bell, send us all that good stuff, leave a comment, thumbs up the video. It, like everyone else says, it really does help. So,
Yeah, it does. And we had no idea Bethesda made so many games that no one had ever heard
yes,
of. But we thought we'd provide you the whole list because, we wanted to take a deep dive into a developer, and it just turns out that they had way more games than we figured.
exactly. Yeah, way more.
Especially hockey
Yeah,
games
fuck's
for some
sake.
reason.
Uh, anyway, man. All right, guys. We'll see you for the next
Take care,
episode.
guys.
Take care.